Don't open it, Mommy! Can't you see? Jonah's little voice cut through the laughter and clinking glasses like a siren. My 6-year-old son was standing on his chair, eyes wide, hands outstretched toward the gift box sitting in front of me. A dozen faces turned in our direction. The chatter around the table stilled. I froze. The shiny silver paper, the perfect bow, the weight of Andrew's hand as he'd placed it in front of me. Everything suddenly felt staged. My pulse pounded in my ears. "What's wrong, buddy?" I whispered, trying to calm him, my hand brushing his back. Jonah shook his head hard, his bottom lip trembling. "It's not for you." The room shifted. Eyes darted from me to Andrew, then back again. Andrew's smirk faltered for a split second before he recovered, his voice loud and patronizing. "Come on, Jonah. It's just a present for Mommy. Sit down." But Jonah didn't sit. He looked at me with a desperation I had never seen before. "I saw it, Mommy." Daddy showed it to her. The air collapsed out of the room. Chairs scraped. Someone gasped. My chest burned as I reached for the ribbon, my fingers trembling but defiant. "Kimberly, don't." Andrew hissed under his breath, but it was too late. The bow slipped free. The paper tore. I lifted the lid. Inside lay a delicate necklace, gold and glinting under the restaurant lights. My breath caught, not because of its beauty, but because of the engraving. Right there on the pendant, in swirling script, "Forever yours, Lila." Lila, his assistant, 24, the girl with too much perfume who called my son little man like she had a right to. The silence in the room pressed in on me. My mother-in-law's fork clinked against her plate. Andrew's colleague coughed. My throat tightened, my hands trembling around the box. Andrew leaned forward, his voice low, desperate now. "Kim, this isn't what it looks like." I laughed, loud, sharp, bitter. "Not what it looks like? My son just outed you, Andrew. Out of the mouths of babes, right?" The words were acid on my tongue, but they felt good. Whispers broke out around us, rising like a tide. Jonah buried his face in my side, but I kept my eyes locked on Andrew. His confident mask was cracking, beads of sweat forming at his temple. "You brought me here," I said, my voice steady even as my chest heaved. "In front of everyone, on Mother's Day. To humiliate me with a gift meant for your mistress?" "Keep your voice down," he muttered, teeth clenched, his hand twitching like he wanted to grab mine, to control me. "No." My chair scraped against the floor as I stood. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore." I lifted the box high so every person in that glass-walled room could see. The necklace caught the light, gleaming like proof. This is who he really is. A liar. A cheat. A man who can't even bother to hide the evidence from his own child. Gasps, murmurs, the sound of someone pulling out their phone. I didn't care. Let them record. Let the world see. Andrew stood too, reaching for my arm. "Kimberly, you're overreacting. Sit down before you embarrass yourself." I slapped him. The crack echoed, clean and sharp, slicing through the buzz of the restaurant. His head snapped to the side, his jaw tight with shock and fury. A stain of red spread across his cheek. The silence that followed was thick and electric. Even Jonah peeked up at me, eyes wide, as if he hadn't believed I would actually do it. I leaned in close, my voice low but carrying. "You embarrassed yourself. You did this. And I'm done protecting you." Then I turned, slid my arm around Jonah, and walked. Past the gawking colleagues, the horrified family, the servers frozen in place with trays balanced in their hands. My heels struck the tile like gunshots, each step a promise. Behind me, Andrew's voice rose, panicked now. "Kim, don't you dare walk out on me!" I didn't look back. Outside, the Atlanta sun was blinding, but I welcomed it. Jonah clung to my hand, small and trembling. I bent down, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "You saved me today." My chest was tight, my eyes burning, but my voice was steady. Inside, something shifted. No more denial. No more excuses. Andrew thought he could humiliate me in public. He thought I'd swallow it, like all the other lies. But this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I lifted Jonah into the car, buckled him in, and started the engine. My hands shook against the wheel, but my vision was clear. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about justice. About making him feel every ounce of the humiliation, the fear, the loss he had dumped on me. I glanced at Jonah in the rearview mirror. He was still watching me, eyes wide and searching. "It's okay, baby," I said softly. "Mommy's got this." And in that moment, with my son as my witness, I swore I would burn Andrew's world to the ground and walk away from the ashes stronger than he ever thought possible. People always say betrayal doesn't happen overnight, that the cracks show long before the collapse. Looking back, I can see the cracks so clearly it hurts. But at the time, I painted over them, convincing myself it was normal marriage wear and tear. Andrew and I met in college. He was ambitious, charismatic, the kind of man who could talk his way into or out of anything. I was steady, focused, finishing my marketing degree while working part-time to support myself. He made me feel like I was more than just a planner, more than just the reliable girl. He said I was his anchor, his future. That was the word he always used. Future. When Jonah was born, I traded that future for stability. I turned down a promotion to manage bigger accounts at my firm because Andrew said, "I'll take care of us. Don't stress." And I believed him. I cut back hours, managed the house, supported his career in real estate. Every open house, every late-night networking event, I was there behind him, steady and invisible. Then there was the inheritance. My father passed away when Jonah was 2. He left me a trust fund, not huge, but enough to make a difference. Andrew didn't even wait a month before suggesting we invested in his growing business. "Think about Jonah's future," he said, spinning it like it was all for our son. I signed the papers. Every cent went into joint ventures, property purchases, things Andrew insisted would pay off. At first, it felt like we were building something together. But over time, it became clear. The business was his. The sacrifices were mine. I remember the first red flag. It was 2 years ago. He came home late, shirt wrinkled, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. He brushed it off with a laugh. "A client hugged me, Kim. You know how people are." And I let it go. Because I wanted to believe him. Because I had a baby asleep upstairs and a mortgage payment due. Because admitting otherwise meant admitting my whole life was built on lies. The lies stacked higher. Late-night phone calls in the bathroom. Receipts that didn't match his story. His phone always face down on the counter. I told myself all husbands get busy, that maybe I was paranoid. Maybe it was just stress. He kept me in a fog of excuses, and I chose the fog over the storm. Until Mother's Day. The look on Jonah's face when he shouted at me not to open that gift. It seared into me. Children don't lie about things like that. They don't invent betrayal. They repeat what they see, what they hear. That moment wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of our son. And that cut deeper than anything Andrew had ever done to me. Later that night, after the chaos of brunch, I sat in Jonah's room as he slept. His tiny hand was curled around the edge of his blanket, his breathing soft and steady. I wanted to protect him from all of this, to shield him from the ugliness of his father's choices. But how could I, if I kept pretending everything was fine? The confirmation came sooner than I expected. My younger sister, Marissa, showed up unannounced 2 days later. She sat on my couch, eyes full of pity, and said the words I'd been dreading. "Kim, I saw him. At Lenox Mall. With her." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. It wasn't a meeting. They weren't working. They were holding hands, laughing, like they didn't have a care in the world. He bought her a bracelet. I didn't want to tell you unless I was sure, but she stopped because I was already crying. I didn't even ask who her was. I already knew. Marissa's face hardened. "You can't keep letting him get away with this. Jonah deserves better. You deserve better." That was the final nail. The whispers in my gut, The lies I'd smoothed over, the inheritance I'd handed over. It all crashed into focus. He wasn't just careless, he was deliberate. He'd taken my love, my money, my trust, and gambled it all on his double life. And I was done. The stakes were clear now. This wasn't just about a marriage. It was about my son's future, about reclaiming what was mine, about not letting Andrew walk away with everything I had built and sacrificed. I had given him years, loyalty, and every last ounce of faith. Now he would feel what it meant to lose. Because once betrayal is undeniable, once the truth stands naked in front of you, there's no going back. And I had no intention of going back. I woke up the next morning with swollen eyes and a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The humiliation at brunch still pulsed like a bruise under my skin. But it wasn't crushing me anymore. It was fueling me. Andrew thought I would crumble, that I would keep swallowing his lies, because that's what I'd always done. He didn't understand that I had already hit the limit. I started with the money. I called the bank, voice steady, and froze every joint account tied to my inheritance. Legally, the funds were mine. I'd been too generous letting him manage them, but that generosity ended today. The banker hesitated, asked if I was sure. Absolutely, I said. Lock it down. Then I moved to the credit cards. I'd kept one in my name alone, tucked away for emergencies. I dusted it off, paid the balance in full, and raised the limit. Andrew wouldn't see it coming. He lived like every dollar was his, but the truth was, most of it was mine. By lunchtime, I was sitting across from a divorce attorney downtown. A woman named Carla, sharp eyes, sharper words. She didn't waste time with sympathy. She laid out the steps like a battle plan: custody, asset division, discovery of hidden accounts. Every word was a lifeline. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I was swimming toward shore. "Do you want to move fast?" Carla asked. "As fast as possible. Then start gathering. Documents, emails, texts, anything that shows misconduct. Keep copies somewhere he can't reach." I nodded, already making lists in my head. My laptop, my phone records, the necklace with her name engraved, Jonah's words at brunch. Every piece was ammunition. That night, while Andrew was working late, I moved through the house with a different kind of focus. I opened file drawers, copied deeds, scanned contracts. I pulled our mortgage papers, tax returns, the LLC filings he'd used for his real estate ventures. Every folder I filled felt like a weapon sliding into place. I didn't cry once. By the third night, I was packing bags. Not a panicked escape, a planned withdrawal. Clothes for Jonah, essentials for me, the important papers stacked neatly in a tote bag. I rented a short-term apartment under my own name, paid up front in cash. Andrew still thought I was stuck. He had no idea I was already gone. The first crack in his mask came sooner than expected. He called me Friday morning, his voice tight. "Kim, did you freeze the accounts?" My card got declined. "Yes," I said flatly. A beat of silence. "Why would you do that? I have deals closing, clients waiting. Not my problem." "You can't just—" "I can." And I did. The line went dead, but I knew it wouldn't be the last call. That evening, he stormed through the front door, jaw tight, phone clutched in his fist. "What the hell are you playing at?" he barked. I didn't flinch. Jonah was upstairs, safe with his cartoons. I looked Andrew in the eye and said, "I'm done being your bankroll. I'm done being your cover story. This house, that money, all of it, I carried it, and now I'm taking it back." His face twisted. He wasn't used to this version of me. The one who didn't beg for answers, who didn't accept excuses. For the first time, he looked unsure. "Kim, you're overreacting. We can fix this. Don't ruin everything over one mistake." I almost laughed. One mistake? 8 years of sacrifice? A child caught in the crossfire? My father's inheritance funneled into his empire? And I was supposed to call it one mistake? "No," I said simply. "You ruined it. I'm just cleaning up the mess." He slammed the door on his way out. I let him. His rage was nothing compared to the resolve burning in me. Because the truth was, the decision had already been made. I wasn't Andrew's anchor anymore. I was the storm. And he had no idea how hard it was about to hit. By the end of the week, the ripples had already started turning into waves. Andrew was used to being untouchable, the man who could throw his weight around, sign checks, and smooth over problems with a grin. Without my money propping him up, that shine wore off fast. The first crack came through his business. I heard about it from Marissa, who worked in commercial banking. 2 of his checks bounced, she said over the phone, voice low. Vendors are already calling. I pictured him in his office, flashing that fake confidence while his phone lit up with unpaid contractors demanding answers. For once, it wasn't my problem to solve. By Monday, his colleagues were whispering. Real estate was a reputation game, and word spread fast. Deals delayed, commissions tied up, a man who couldn't even pay his staging team on time. The mistress, Lila, worked with him, and I knew she wasn't built for storms. She wanted the perks, the dinners, the designer bags. Without the flow of cash, the cracks in their fantasy started to show. I didn't have to wait long for confirmation. At Jonah's school pickup, another mom, someone who always orbited the local gossip, stopped me. Kimberly, I heard Andrew had a scene at the office? Something about an argument in the lobby? I kept my face neutral. I wouldn't know. But later that night, Marissa sent me a screenshot from a mutual acquaintance's Instagram story. It showed Andrew, red-faced, standing in the lobby of his building, yelling at Lila while she turned away, clutching her phone. The caption read, "This is better than TV." I saved the screenshot. Evidence. Proof. Meanwhile, the family fallout had begun. My mother-in-law called, her tone sharp as a knife. "Kimberly, why are you freezing accounts? Andrew says you're being dramatic." I almost laughed. Did he tell you why? Did he mention the engraved necklace? The affair your grandson caught him in? Silence. Then a clipped, "I don't want to hear this gossip. You need to think of appearances." Appearances? My voice shook, but I didn't hold back. He humiliated me in public. He dragged Jonah into it. If you want to protect appearances, talk to your son, not me. She hung up without another word. Not long after, my father-in-law called. His tone was different, colder, measured. I warned Andrew years ago not to mix family money with business. If what I'm hearing is true, you're wise to get out now. That stunned me. A small piece of validation I didn't know I'd been craving. For once, someone on his side of the family saw the truth. The social circle reacted like vultures. Women I hadn't heard from in months suddenly texted, pretending to check in but fishing for details. Men who once toasted Andrew at golf outings now avoided eye contact when I passed them at the grocery store. The mask was slipping, and everyone wanted to see what lay underneath. Andrew, of course, didn't go quietly. He started with messages. Dozens of them. "We need to talk. You can't just cut me off. You're being emotional. You're ruining Jonah's life." I ignored them all. Then the calls. At first, angry. "Pick up the damn phone, Kim." Then pleading. "Please, just hear me out." By the third day, he was leaving voicemails at 2 a.m. His voice cracked and tired. I saved every single one. The first time he showed up at the apartment I'd rented, I didn't answer the door. Jonah was asleep, and I sat in the dark, listening to him pound on the wood, shouting my name. My hands shook, but I didn't move. Eventually, he left, muttering curses as he walked down the hall. The next morning, a text came through. "You're making a mistake. Without me, you'll have nothing." I stared at those words for a long time. Once they might have cut deep, but now they only lit a fire under me. Without him, I wasn't losing. I was finally free to win. And the best part? He didn't realize how much more I had already set in motion. The lawyer was preparing filings, the documents were stacking up, and every desperate move he made was another nail in his own coffin. The consequences were only beginning. He thought he was facing a setback. What he didn't know was that this was the start of his downfall. and I was just getting warmed up. It was Jonah's school fundraiser that set the stage. I hadn't planned it. I never needed to. Andrew had a talent for cornering himself. He was still trying to claw back his image, strutting around like the meltdown at his office lobby hadn't made the rounds. He showed up that night in a pressed suit, dragging Lila behind him like a prize he hadn't yet lost. The room was full of parents, teachers, local donors. Everyone dressed to impress, wine glasses in hand, pretending they weren't hungry for the drama simmering just beneath the surface. I could feel eyes on me the second I walked in. Andrew's smile tightened when he saw me. "Kim," he said smoothly, like he was greeting a business partner. "Glad you could make it." I didn't return the smile. Wouldn't miss supporting Jonah. Lila hovered at his side, shifting under the stairs. She looked smaller without the Instagram filters, her glitter dress loud against the muted tones of the other women. The program began, teachers thanking parents for donations, kids showing off art projects. For a moment, I thought maybe I could get through the night without a scene. But Andrew couldn't help himself. He leaned toward a group of men near the bar and spoke just loud enough for me to hear. "Kim's just bitter. She can't handle success. You know how women get." I felt the heat rise up my chest, but I stayed seated. I waited. Because sometimes revenge tastes better when served in front of an audience that doesn't expect it. The moment came during the auction. The school had set up a projector to display donations, and Andrew, desperate to reassert control, waved his paddle high. 10,000, he announced. Gasps filled the room. Teachers clapped, grateful. The spotlight shifted onto him, exactly where he wanted it. Except I knew the truth. His accounts were locked, his cards useless. He didn't have 10,000 to give. I stood. Calm. Collected. My heels clicked against the floor as I walked toward the stage. The MC looked startled, but I took the microphone with a smile. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice carrying through the speakers. "But there seems to be some confusion." The room hushed. All eyes on me now. Andrew's face drained of color. "Kimberly." I held up a piece of paper. "This," I continued, "is a copy of the letter from the bank. Every joint account frozen. Every card in his name declined. So unless he's planning to pay in lies, I'd advise the school to wait before cashing his promise." A ripple of shock spread through the room. Whispers darted like sparks. Someone's phone camera flashed. Andrew shot to his feet. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" I held up the necklace. The same one from Mother's Day. The one with "Forever Yours," Lila engraved for all to see. Gasps filled the air. Because this is where the money was going. Not to our family, not to our son, to her. All eyes swung to Lila. She froze, mascara thick under the lights, her lips parting in horror. I didn't. But Andrew grabbed her wrist, too rough, too desperate. "Don't say a word." The damage was done. I looked out at the crowd, every teacher, parent, and donor staring with rapt attention. He wanted to play generous tonight, to look like the hero. But the truth is simple. Andrew built his success on my inheritance, on my sacrifices, and he threw it all away for someone half his age. The room erupted. Murmurs turned into open commentary. Unbelievable. Poor Jonah. What a fraud. I turned back to Andrew, his face twisted in rage, sweat glistening on his forehead. "You wanted to humiliate me in public? Consider us even." Then I placed the microphone back on the stand and walked off stage. Behind me, chaos. Lila yanked her hand free and stormed toward the door, her heels clacking like gunshots. Parents whispered in clusters. Teachers avoided Andrew's gaze. The MC awkwardly shuffled papers, trying to salvage the program. But the image was seared into everyone's minds. Andrew exposed, abandoned, humiliated. As I reached Jonah's classroom display in the back, my phone buzzed. A text from Marissa. Half the room already posted it on Facebook. It's going viral. I smiled to myself. Perfect. Because this wasn't just about money or marriage anymore. This was about reputation, about stripping away the mask he'd worn for so long. And tonight, in front of the very community he'd tried to impress, I'd given him the gift he gave me on Mother's Day: public humiliation. Only difference was, mine would stick. I knew Andrew wouldn't crawl away quietly. Humiliation had never humbled him. It just pushed him to double down. 2 days after the fundraiser, his face popped up on my feed in a local podcast clip. He sat there in a blazer, smirk plastered on, telling the host, "My wife is going through a difficult time. She's unstable, spreading lies. I love my family, but sometimes people crack under pressure." Unstable. That word hit like a slap. He wanted to paint me as the crazy wife while he played the victim. Classic Andrew. At first, I let it sit. I'd learned that his desperation was its own undoing. But then Marissa called. "Kim, he's on Facebook Live right now, saying Jonah was coached to lie at brunch. He's dragging your son into it." That was my line. Nobody used Jonah. I opened my laptop, hands steady. Within minutes, I uploaded everything. The screenshot of Andrew screaming at Lila in the lobby, copies of the bounced checks, a photo of the necklace engraved with her name, and, the cherry on top, a short clip from the fundraiser where he tried to pledge $10,000 he didn't have. I didn't add commentary, just the truth. Evidence, clean and undeniable. By the next morning, the post had thousands of shares. Comments poured in. He really dragged his kid into this? Imagine building your empire on your wife's inheritance and then cheating with the secretary. Hashtags started popping up. Forever yours Lila and bounced check king. Andrew tried to fight back, but he was drowning. He recorded another video, claiming the necklace was just a sample gift for a client. But by then, screenshots of his text messages to Lila were circulating, ones I hadn't even leaked. Someone inside his office had clearly decided to flip. The texts were brutal. Promises of vacations, screenshots of him using my inheritance account for luxury hotels. One even read, "Don't worry, Kim will never leave, she needs me." That one burned through the internet like gasoline on fire. By midweek, his brokerage firm had put out a statement. "We take allegations of misconduct seriously and are reviewing Mr. Krybell's status with the company." Translation: they were cutting him loose to save face. And Lila? She vanished. Deleted her Instagram, stopped showing up at the office. I didn't blame her. She wanted the lifestyle, not the backlash. When the hashtag with her name trended for 3 days straight, she became radioactive. The best part was, I didn't have to push anymore. The machine had taken over. Gossip blogs picked it up. Local news ran a segment on the Atlanta real estate scandal. Every clip, every screenshot, every receipt was dissected, memed, and shared. Andrew called me in a frenzy. "Take it down! You're ruining me!" "No, Andrew," I said calmly. "You ruined yourself. I just held up the mirror." He cursed, screamed, then begged. "We can work this out. Please, Kim. People forget. We can spin this." But the spin was dead. Once the internet smells blood, it doesn't stop. Every attempt he made only fed the fire. I watched it all unfold with a strange mix of satisfaction and sorrow. Satisfaction because justice was finally visible. Sorrow because this was the father of my child, and Jonah would one day see it all. But better he learn the truth than live in a house built on lies. When I tucked Jonah in that night, he whispered, "Mommy, are we okay?" I kissed his forehead. "We're better than okay. We're free." And as I turned off the light, I knew Andrew wasn't just losing a marriage or a reputation. He was losing the one thing he prized above all else: control. Courtrooms smell like cold coffee and fear. That's what I remember most. The air was too still, the benches too hard, and Andrew too smug for a man about to lose everything. He strutted in with a new lawyer. Expensive, cocky, all polished shoes and empty promises. I sat straighter at my table, Carla at my side, a stack of binders and evidence piled like bricks between us. The judge barely glanced at Andrew before saying, "Let's proceed. From the start, the tone was different. Andrew tried to play the part of the wounded husband, sighing, shaking his head, even wiping at dry eyes. His lawyer painted me as unstable, emotional, reckless with money. But every time they opened a door, Carla walked through it with receipts. "Mrs. Kribel, can you explain this necklace?" she asked, holding up the piece engraved with "Forever yours, Lila." "It was presented to me on Mother's Day," I said clearly. "In front of my son. It was meant for his mistress." The gallery murmured. Andrew's jaw tightened. Next came the financials. Every bounced check, every overdraft fee, every hotel stay booked with my inheritance account. Carla's voice never wavered as she laid them out, one by one. The judge's eyes narrowed more with each exhibit. By the time it was over, Andrew wasn't smirking anymore. He was slumped in his chair, whispering furiously to his lawyer. When the judge ruled on temporary orders, it was a clean sweep. I retained primary custody of Jonah, exclusive use of the marital home, and control over the accounts tied to my inheritance. Andrew was ordered to pay child support, which was almost laughable, considering he had no access to steady income anymore. Outside the courtroom, reporters waited. Microphones flashed. "Kimberly, any comment?" I said nothing. Just walked past, Jonah's photo in my bag reminding me who I was really fighting for. But the legal fight was only half the war. The family fallout hit harder. Andrew's father called me that night. His voice was low, measured. "I've spoken to the attorneys. I will not be bailing Andrew out this time." There was no gloating in his tone, no satisfaction, just resignation. He squandered enough chances. "You're doing the right thing, Kimberly. Protect Jonah." It startled me. This man who had always treated me like a polite inconvenience suddenly sounding like an ally. But betrayal cuts in every direction, and Andrew hadn't just stolen from me. He'd stained his family's name. A week later, I saw it firsthand. Andrew's brother Michael cornered me in the parking lot of Jonah's school. "I'm sorry," he said, eyes heavy. "I defended him for years. I can't anymore. He's toxic. You don't owe him forgiveness." It was the closest thing to closure I'd ever get from his side of the family. Meanwhile, Andrew unraveled. The brokerage firm suspended him officially. Then they cut ties altogether. His license was under review for misconduct. The house of cards collapsed fast. Colleagues stopped returning calls. Clients canceled contracts, and one of his investors filed a lawsuit. I didn't need to lift a finger. His empire, built on my money and his arrogance, was crumbling all on its own. Lila reappeared briefly, spotted outside his apartment building. Someone snapped a photo of her screaming at him in the parking lot, mascara streaking down her cheeks. 2 days later, she vanished again. Word was she'd taken a job in another city, distancing herself from the scandal. The silence she left behind was deafening. Without her, without money, without reputation, Andrew was stripped bare. And yet, he still tried to fight. He filed motions, demanded joint custody, claimed I was alienating Jonah. The judge saw through it. Carla cut him down with evidence. The midnight voicemails, the public humiliations, the reckless spending. Every attempt he made only deepened his grave. The final blow came during a deposition. Carla asked him about the inheritance. "Is it true your wife's trust fund financed your real estate ventures?" Andrew tried to dodge. "We were partners. That money was ours." "No," Carla pressed. "The documents show it was hers. You convinced her to sign it over, correct?" His silence was an admission. The court reporter's fingers clacked, immortalizing his downfall in black and white. When the divorce decree came down, it was everything I'd fought for. Full custody of Jonah, the marital home secured in my name, restitution of the remaining trust assets, and a clean cut from his debts. Andrew was left with whatever scraps he could manage, which wasn't much. I walked out of that courthouse with the weight of years finally lifting off my chest. Jonah's small hand was in mine, his future no longer tethered to Andrew's chaos. But for Andrew, the fallout only deepened. His father cut him off financially. His brother stopped answering his calls. Even his mother, who had clung to denial for months, finally cracked. "I can't defend you anymore," she told him in a voicemail Marissa later played for me. "You've disgraced all of us." He was isolated, broke, and radioactive. The man who once thrived on control now lived in a half-empty apartment, begging for second chances that no one was willing to give. And me? For the first time in years, I felt steady. Not vindictive, not frantic, just steady. Because the war was over, and I had won. The apartment smelled like stale beer and defeat. I hadn't planned to see Andrew again, but Carla said it was best to collect Jonah's things in person before the custody agreement finalized. He'd been given one last weekend visitation, and I wasn't about to let my son walk into that place unprepared. When I knocked, the door creaked open. Andrew stood there, thinner, unshaven, his once perfect suits replaced by sweatpants and a wrinkled t-shirt. His eyes darted past me, as if searching for someone who might still believe his story. There was no one. "Kim," he said, voice hoarse. "Come in." I stepped inside. The apartment was bare, just a couch, a mattress on the floor, and piles of unopened mail stacked against the wall. The man who once bragged about penthouses and country clubs now lived like a ghost. He closed the door slowly, leaning against it as if it were the only thing holding him up. "I've been meaning to call you," he started. I wanted to explain. I dropped Jonah's overnight bag on the couch. "There's nothing left to explain." He flinched. "I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But it wasn't supposed to be like this." I crossed my arms. "You mean you didn't think you'd get caught?" His hands shook as he ran them through his hair. "I loved you, Kim. I still love you. Lila meant nothing. She was just—" "Don't say distraction," I cut him off. "Don't insult me with cliches. You built a life with her while tearing mine apart." His voice cracked. "I thought you'd forgive me. You always forgave me." That hit a nerve. He was right. I had forgiven, overlooked, smoothed over. For years I let his lies become wallpaper in our home. But that woman was gone. "I forgave because I believed in us," I said, my tone like steel. "And you took that belief and used it to destroy me." He stepped closer, eyes wet. "We can start over. I'll get a new job. We'll rebuild." "Please, Kim. For Jonah." I shook my head. "Don't you dare use Jonah. He deserves stability, not a father who gambled away his family for ego." His knees buckled, and he sank onto the couch. "I have nothing left," he whispered. "My job, my family, my money. Gone. All I have is you." For a moment, I almost felt pity. The boyish charm that once pulled me in was gone, replaced by a broken man staring at the rubble of his life. But pity wasn't enough to erase betrayal. "You had me," I said softly, "and you threw me away." Silence stretched between us, heavy and final. He buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. I stood there, steady, no tears left for him. Finally, he looked up, desperate. "Tell me what to do. I'll do anything." I picked up Jonah's bag and slung it over my shoulder. "There's nothing you can do. You're the architect of your own destruction. And now you get to live in it." His mouth opened, then closed. No words came. He just sat there, broken, as I walked to the door. I paused with my hand on the knob, turned back once. "This is the last time you'll ever see me outside of a courtroom. Don't call. Don't come near Jonah unless it's supervised. This is over." Then I opened the door, stepped into the hallway, and didn't look back. The air outside felt lighter, cleaner. For years I'd carried the weight of his lies, his ego, his shadow. Now, for the first time, I was free. And as I walked away, heels striking the floor with purpose, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Andrew wasn't my anchor anymore. He was the wreck I'd left behind. 1 year later, I barely recognized my own life. The mornings were calmer now. No rushing to cover for Andrew's late nights. No tension waiting for the next lie to fall out of his mouth. Jonah and I had our routines. Pancakes on Saturdays, soccer practice twice a week, homework at the kitchen table where laughter filled the gaps that used to be silence. He was lighter, freer, as if he'd grown 10 years the moment Andrew's shadow disappeared from our home. I had grown too. I'd returned to marketing full-time, something I thought I'd sacrificed forever. At first it was terrifying, walking into that office, feeling out of place after years away. But it didn't take long for me to realize I still had it. The instincts, the sharp eye for strategy, the ability to read a room, all of it came back like muscle memory. Within months, I was leading campaigns again, this time with the confidence of someone who had survived fire and walked out stronger. Financially, I was steady. The court had secured my inheritance back where it belonged, and the house was mine outright. I wasn't rich, but I was secure. And security, I'd learned, was wealth in its own right. Andrew, meanwhile, had become a ghost story. Word around town was that he was renting a one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Atlanta, working odd jobs under the table because no brokerage would touch him. His reputation was toxic, his name a punchline at the same country clubs where he once held court. Even his parents, once his staunchest defenders, had distanced themselves. I saw him once, by accident, outside a grocery store. He was thinner, his clothes worn, his eyes darting nervously like a man who expected judgment at every turn. Our eyes met briefly, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. He was irrelevant. The contrast between us couldn't have been sharper. Jonah and I were thriving, building a life filled with small joys and quiet victories. Andrew was fading, swallowed by the very destruction he'd created. I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already won. My power wasn't in watching him fall. It was in knowing I had risen. One evening, Jonah climbed into my lap with a drawing he'd made. It was a picture of the two of us, hand in hand, standing under a bright sun. "This is us," he said proudly. I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. "It's perfect, baby." He looked up at me, serious. "We're happy now, right?" I kissed his forehead. "Yes, we're happy. And we're free." That night, as I sat alone on the porch, the air warm and quiet around me, I let myself breathe it all in. The journey, the pain, the humiliation, the fire. Every step had brought me here. Stronger, sharper, untouchable. Betrayal had broken me once, but it also rebuilt me, and the freedom that came from walking through it, from burning down the lies and stepping into my own life again, was worth more than anything Andrew had ever promised. He was gone. I was here, and that was enough. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If this story hit you, if it made you feel something, don't just leave it here. Hit the like button and hype this video too. Share your thoughts or even your own experience in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button to let me know you're with me. Every bit of support helps this channel grow, and it means the world. Until next time, take care and stay strong.